Now, we're at probably our main water hole on the property, other than the tank we were at earlier. That tank water hole might end up being one of our best spots on the property. This is a huge social area right here. Pretty hard to kill a big buck because it's so much out in the open, but I sat on here in 2010 from, I believe, 9 in the morning to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon and saw 11 bucks. I had 9 come to the water while I was here, including the 3-year-old that I passed on. Unfortunately, the mature bucks were over here to the right in the pines, chasing does around their bedding area, and they didn't come over and get a drink that morning. But this happens to be one of our best locations for getting mature buck camera pictures during the middle of the season, especially November. Following true to all our water holes, we don't get a lot of pictures on these water holes during the midday to evening or to morning to midday hours. Most of the time, those bucks are coming out of their dry bedding areas, they're hitting the water, and moving on to the food source. Again, right here we have probably 800 yards of food behind the camera where those deer can get into. We want them to move through this area, and we want them to pass off onto those food sources and give us a chance to get a look at them, but not have them right here in front of us when they're trying to get in and out of stand. Now this location, because it's such a social area and because there's so much food around here, impossible to get in here in the morning unless we just push off all the deer. It was in 2007, shot a nice 5-year-old with my bow, just about 150 yards off to the left of the camera, and at 6:15 in the morning he was taking a drink from this water hole. And the stand, to get to the stand, really you go over to the left of the camera, there's some pines, you drop below those pines about 150 yards and you're at the stand. Very easy walk in. It's tempting to come in and take the easy route in the morning, to just walk through these open fields and then walk down to the stand location. But instead, what I did to get to that stand that morning was I walked through the draw. After walking 900 yards through the neighbor's cow pasture, drop down 200 feet in elevation, and then cut over about a half mile through the woods down below, going up and down to get into that stand location. And I was getting in my stand about 6:15, and when I was getting into my stand, all sweated up and hot and making a lot of commotion, he was just up here casually taking a drink. Again, if I would have just come through the open fields, he would have been gone. I was a sweaty mess when I got in there. That's another thing. I do wash my clothes. I change outside the truck. I keep my clothes in Rubbermaid. After I wear an outfit, I hang it up in trees a lot of times if it's going to be dry, and recycle it for 2-3 days later. I had a client give me a new contraption where I can put my clothes in there and dry them during the day. It runs them through a carbon filter. I try to keep my clothes clean. But if I want to walk in an hour and 15 minutes or an hour into a stand and know that I'm a sweaty mess, I know that my stands are set up so that my wind for that stand, that time of day, that morning, that time of year, that wind is going to be blowing into a non-deer area. That non-deer area might be an open hardwoods, might be an open bottom where there's not much cover. It might be a point, a flat, steep ridge. It might be a horse pasture, a road, a house, somewhere where I just don't expect deer to be. Certainly not somewhere where I've actually created a bedding area and set a trap for myself. Again though, deer come into this area in the evening on the way to food, and you can see this hole is pretty big. The deer just keep pawing at it after the years. We've actually tried to put a pool liner in here to hold more water. This is pretty much out in the open, so this is a water hole we have to fill a lot. We probably put 200 to 300 gallons in here during the season, again with 3 15-gallon jugs, Rubbermaid container, cooler, whatever we can do to get water back in here. Water hole's great right here. We can sit in a stand location off to the left. You can see a forked tree, and we can get in behind this brush. It's a lot of cover. Deer are looking up into the wood line, so we're not skylined at all. But we can come into this location, deer come into the water and leave, and we can be pretty sure that they're not going to smell us. Again though, my favorite areas are the bedding areas, are off these big fields. Where we find where we get most of the buck opportunities are not out on these food plots. In fact, I've shot maybe 20 to 25 mature bucks between 3 and 5 years of age, and I think I've shot 2 on a food source. The other ones are back in the woods. We looked at another water hole location on this property earlier, to where that water hole is in a real secure location, over 100 yards off the food source, closer to bedding. Shot a nice buck there last year on that with my bow. That's the kind of spot we're going to shoot a mature buck. I love these spots. We are drawn to this spot. We're going to shoot a mature buck out of this spot eventually. We've had some mishaps to where we should have shot one by now too. See a ton of deer. We see a lot of mature bucks off in the distance. We get to know a lot about the property here. Something that we've done to try to improve on this location is we have one of our best bedding areas over to the right of the camera. And so we have the water hole right here. We're going to go down into that bedding area now. And we know there's deer there anyways. We like to hide them down there. And we've made some bedding area improvements and some deer beds to improve this location, and that we can know exactly where those does are, where those deer are during the day when we come into this water hole. We know exactly where they're coming from, and it makes our guess work a lot easier. It makes us defining a stand location and having a successful hunt a lot higher of an opportunity level by controlling the pieces of the puzzle. It's not about improving every square inch of the woods. It's about defining those areas of food, bedding, travel, and making sure those deer are there and you can count on it when you get in and out of your property so you're not spooking them.